All right, let's dive into Figma. We're talking about a tool that didn't just show up to the design party, it completely redesigned the whole house. Today, we're going to break down how this one platform managed to totally reshape the way digital products get made, from the first sketch to the final launch. Oh man, if this quote gives you a little bit of a nervous twitch, you are definitely not alone. It just perfectly nails that universal pain for pretty much any creative team out there. You know, the chaos, the confusion, that endless loop of revisions. That's the exact problem Figma was built to solve. So, before Figma came along, getting a design from an idea into a real product, wow, it was a mess. It was this winding, complicated journey through a whole bunch of different apps, and each one had its own little quirks and headaches. The real killer was just the constant context switching. You'd be building your UI in, say, Sketch, then you'd have to export everything and upload it to another tool like InVision just to make a clickable prototype. From there, you'd push it to another app like Zeppelin so your developers could finally inspect the code. And trying to keep track of which version was the real final one, total nightmare. It was slow, clunky, and honestly, just super frustrating for everyone involved. And then Figma shows up. And it asks this one simple, radical question. What if? What if you could do all of that stuff with your entire team all in one single place? The impact of that idea was just enormous. And what's really incredible, it's just how fast it happened. I mean, look at these numbers from a survey by UXTools.co. Back in 2019, Sketch was the undisputed king of UI design. Fast forward just 3 years to 2022, and Figma hadn't just caught up, it had completely taken over. More people were using it than Sketch and Adobe XD combined. That's not just growth, that's a straight-up revolution. You know, the easiest way to wrap your head around Figma is with this one simple analogy. It's Google Docs, but for designers. That's it. By putting the whole design process in a web browser, it unlocked true real-time collaboration. No more saving files, no more exporting, no more uploading. Everybody is in the same file at the same time, period. And this wasn't just some cool idea for small startups. The biggest names in the tech world jumped on board, and they did it fast. We're talking companies like Microsoft, Airbnb, and Zoom moving their huge global design teams over to Figma. It proved that this new way of working could scale, big time. So how in the world did Figma pull this off? Well, the first big reason was that they built features that felt less like tools and more like actual superpowers, saving designers from hours and hours of tedious work. Okay, a perfect example is something called auto layout. Before Figma, if you changed the text inside a button, you had to manually resize the button itself, then nudge every single other thing on the screen to make it all fit again. It was painful. With auto layout, the button just adapts. Everything around it reflows automatically. It turns minutes of tedious pixel pushing into, well, 0 seconds. It's magic. And the next superpower is components. So picture this, you've used the same button design on 50 different screens in your app. Now what happens when you have to change its color? Well, with components, you just change the one master button and poof, all 50 of those instances update instantly. This is the bedrock of building consistent large-scale design systems. And this quote from Rakuten's design manager just nails it. For huge companies, being able to create one consistent design system and share it with teams all over the world isn't just a nice little feature. It's absolutely essential. And Figma made that possible in a way that no one else really had before. And finally, Figma pulled prototyping right into the same file. So instead of exporting to some other app, you literally just drag a little line, they call it a noodle, from a button on one screen to the next screen. And that's it, you're done. You have a clickable, interactive prototype that anyone can play with, and you never had to leave your design canvas. So the second pillar, and this is maybe what Figma is most famous for, is its completely new approach to collaboration. This is where that whole Google Docs for designers thing really comes alive. I mean, just look at the difference in the workflow. The old way was this slow, one-step-at-a-time process with constant exporting and uploading. The Figma way? It's a continuous loop where everyone's involved from the very beginning. Design, feedback, developer handoff, it's all happening in parallel, not one after the other. And what made it all click was just how simple it was to get in. No software to install, no licenses to manage. If you have a web browser and a link, you're in the file. This completely tore down the walls between teams. Product managers could just pop in and leave a comment. Developers could inspect the code while the designer was literally still working on it. And the impact was just huge. This quote from the head of design at Zoom says everything you need to know. When you make it that easy to share work, you just get more feedback, and it's better feedback. People can point to the exact spot on the screen and leave a comment, which ends all that confusing back and forth you get with emails and screenshots. So the third and final pillar here is Figma's open ecosystem. Because while the main tool is incredibly powerful on its own, its true potential is really unlocked by the community. See, Figma replaces a ton of tools right out of the box, but it's smart enough to know it can't do everything. So instead, it created this platform where anyone in the community can build and share plugins that automate tedious tasks or connect to other services you use. So for instance, instead of going to a stock photo site, downloading an image, then importing it, you just run the Unsplash plugin and drop it right in. Need an icon? Iconify gives you thousands right inside Figma. Need to get rid of an image background? One click with Remove BG. Each one of these little plugins shaves off minutes, sometimes even hours of manual busy work. So when you add it all up, a super powerful, all-in-one design tool, true real-time collaboration, and this endless ecosystem of helpful plugins, you get a platform that didn't just compete, it completely changed the rules of the game for an entire industry. Let's just boil it down. Why did Figma win? It's really three main things. First, it took that messy, fragmented toolbox and put it all into one clean platform. Second, its real-time collaboration tore down the walls between teams. And third, its powerful, smart features like auto layout and components just let teams design better stuff way faster. And if you need one number to really understand the scale of its impact, here it is: $20 billion. That's the price Adobe offered to buy Figma back in 2022. Now, that deal didn't end up happening, but the valuation alone, that tells you everything you need to know about how revolutionary this platform truly is. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. Figma proved that really complex, creative work doesn't have to be done in isolation in separate files and siloed teams. So the big question now is, what's next? Which creative field is about to have its own Figma moment?